Hi everyone, my name is Jason Flom and I'll be the ASCD presenter, faculty member working with you. I want to welcome you to this virtual learning network. This is an exciting opportunity for people from across the United States to work together to build capacity in a constructivist community to help implement the Common Core in the sciences and the science classroom. So it's a very exciting time. First, I'd like to welcome everyone from wherever you're at, and to say that I'm really excited to be here in this position. My name is Jason Flom. I'm currently the Learning and Communications Director at Cornerstone Learning Community in Tallahassee. We're a small private school, and so I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself. I fell in love with science in college. I thought I was going to teach English in high school, and then fell in love with elementary and worked to integrate science into everything after that. I took as many science classes as I could in college, and as an elementary science teacher, just worked it in everywhere. Now we're implementing the Common Core here. We're in Florida, and the Sunshine State standards are no longer with us. So we're implementing the Common Core, and even though Florida's not adopted the next generation science standards, we are also incorporating those. And like many of you, I have mixed feelings about the Common Core. I think they are a big improvement over many of the state standards we had before, including the Sunshine State standards, because they put the emphasis on learning behaviors and patterns rather than factual memorization. At the same time, I'm hesitant about the pacing of implementation and the approaches that are happening around the Common Core and the high stakes that are coming along the board with it. So which is why I jumped at the opportunity to be a part of this community that's going to wrestle with those changes in a way that's supportive and engaging and hopefully raises the water for all of us. So I'm not a secondary teacher of science, and so will be very much dependent on and defer to your expertise and experience base. I very much look forward to learning from you and with you. So with that said, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look at the ASCD Grantscape. We're going to move into eliciting some problems of practice, which are the key pieces of what we're going to try to do in this virtual learning network, is to target some of these problems of practice and see how we can work together to solve them. I'll give you an introduction to ASCD Edge and an introduction to EduCore, and then we'll talk about some next steps. So the goals, as I see them, are essentially to create a community that works together. So in order to do that, we're going to try and make this as interactive as possible. We're limited in that we don't have a Star Trek holodeck that we can all transport ourselves to, so we're going to try and make it as interactive as we can given the limitations of the technology. So we'll do some polls, and then on the right side there's a place where you can message and interact, and I would very much encourage you to do so. This will not be possible without your involvement. The second piece is to improve students as scientists, their ability to not only engage in the processes of science, but to also both articulate and understand the sciences in critical and compelling ways using evidence, argument, ideas, and knowledge. So we want to empower students. And then third, we want to enable them to change the world. Often we use the terms college and career ready. We throw that around all the time. It's even used in the Common Core literature. But what we really want students to graduate is as confident, capable, and curious lifelong learners and engaged citizens. It may just be a synonym for college and career ready, but it sure sounds better to me. We want them to leave and able to change the world as they find themselves in. And we know that science and the STEM fields in general are going to be a huge piece of that. So that's really, for me, the goal of what we're doing. So the first poll that we want to ask is, who in the world are you? And I think Rebecca's going to throw up the poll that you'll be able to sign in. All right. So we have a bunch of others out there, and then some science educators and some teacher leaders. That's great to know. So we're going to jump into another poll here. And if anyone wants to throw in into the message area of your control panel what that other is, I would love to see who's out there. Poll 2, what in the world do you teach? Excellent. So mostly physical sciences, and then 60% other, and then all of it, general education. All right, Jill and Meredith, special education, excellent. Multiple subjects, keyboarding, science in general. Awesome, what a nice range of folks we have here. All right, the next poll is where in the world are you all in terms of Common Core implementation? Curious if you're just getting started, if you've been implementing but you're still in the learning curve, if you're partial implementation, or maybe you're not interested, maybe you're not implementing Common Core at all, but you're interested in increasing literacy in the sciences, or perhaps some other. Great. So everyone has some knowledge base of Common Core, so that's great. We're not going to need to spend a lot of time talking about how it's set up. We can focus more on how it pertains to the sciences. And that's wonderful to know. All right, and the fourth poll, and then I'll stop for a few minutes and talk at you some more, is what is your level of understanding about the Common Core in the sciences? Maybe you know them inside and out. Maybe you kind of see how they work. Great. This is perfect. So with this range, we're going to have an excellent opportunity to learn from one another and to really work to be empathetic and to understand what one another is going through, which will help us as leaders in our own schools and areas of expertise to help expand ultimately the capacity of our local colleagues as well. Well, the ASCD Gates grant was to design a virtual learning network with the focus being on the instructional shifts of the Common Core state standards, specifically with a focus on implementation in the classroom. Primarily, it was designed as for targeting secondary teachers, but there's a number of you in a range of grades, and I will very much welcome that as an elementary student or teacher myself, former elementary school teacher. It's important. One of the challenges that we're facing right now is that a school year and a teacher is a lot like a marathon runner. It's hard to change your stride mid-race, especially when so much weight is placed on the finish line. But as you know, science is as much, if not more, about process. So this is an opportunity for us to learn together and to support one another's growth through resource sharing, idea exchange, discourse on the problems and strategies of practice, and maybe help all of us change our stride a little bit over the course of the year. So for those of you who are just getting to know the Common Core a little bit, there's key instructional shifts, and ELA stands for English Language Arts / Literacy. And so the three major shifts have to do with increasing the amount of content-rich, nonfiction informational text, and also on reading, writing, and speaking and grounded in evidence, and having regular practice with complex text and its vocabulary. So There's an increasing complexity of text as students get older, introducing more demanding and complex vocabulary but grounded within usage. And this doesn't translate into we simply need to buy new textbooks and voila, clouds part, angels sing, problems are solved. Rather, if we think as scientists do, they encounter a range of texts from a variety of sources. So too should students wrestle with complex texts from a variety of sources if they are to learn to think as scientists do. The instructional shifts in mathematics, just so you're aware of them, is that they want to focus on breadth over depth. So instead of a broad range of standards, there's fewer standards with a greater depth focused on them. There's a goal of creating more coherent connections between the grades so that each year that depth increases. And then finally, looking beyond simply how to get the answer, but to have a deep understanding, yet balance that with fluency and speed development, but then to apply those in the novel context. So it's kind of the triptych that they're shooting for here, which a lot of math programs wrestle with. And so hopefully we'll be able to achieve it as we move forward. The Gates grant has provided funding for a 2-year project in which ASCD will provide interactive learning opportunities and resources for effective Common Core integration. At the same time, we're looking for create a dynamic feedback loop between participants, you all, and PD providers, so that we're able to create a responsive and community building environment for ongoing virtual professional development for educators in the instructional shifts of the Common Core. And so we'll be focused on topically focused teacher networks that support the efforts of educators to implement the standards in their classroom. Sometimes we'll have synchronous opportunities like we're having right now, and other times we'll be able to engage on EDGE, or you'll be able to explore recorded and archived materials at EduCore, which we'll talk a little bit about more in the future. Phase 1, which is what we're currently in and just beginning, is the virtual convening, which we're at right now. We'll have a total of 4 webinars structured around problems of practice, which I'm hoping to elicit from you all today. And then we'll have challenges identified by participants, and then we'll collaborate with trusted experts and hopefully gather feedback in a timely manner. Some of these problems might include formative and summative assessments, lesson construction and adaptation, implementing shifts, or perhaps more the social side of implementation, such as overcoming and understanding resistance, creating new opportunities for cross-curricular collaboration, expanding teacher capacity, and adapting to change. So there's a lot of things we have a chance to wrestle with, the ones that are most pertinent to you. Phase 2 is a very similar structure in that there'll be a virtual convening followed by 4 webinars over the course of the year. These will be designed to dive deeper into some of the subplots, if you will, about these problems in practice, and then to expand our network so that we're able to extend knowledge to our local colleagues and teams, and hopefully the virtual communities of professionals that you regularly engage with. One tool that we're going to use is the EDGE, ASCD EDGE, and if you guys don't mind, I don't have a poll for it, but I'm curious how many of you have already seen EDGE and have already registered. If you can just type in your message area over there, registered, not registered, no idea what it is, know what it is. That'll be great for knowing how deep I need to go into it later. It's a place to share video, audio, etc. It's kind of the hub for the social side of this learning network. It's a place where we'll all be on equal footing and be able to share resources. And then EduCore is an online digital tool that was funded by a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and developed by ASCD. And it's a host of free resources that will help to find and utilize lessons and units around that help to implement literacy standards in the sciences, as well as for folks who are working in the math areas. There's a number of resources there, and there's also a bunch of evidence-based strategies and videos and supporting documents. Again, we'll talk more about EduCore later in the webinar here. Finally, the last part of the virtual learning network is the measurement and evaluation, and providing feedback about the effectiveness of the networks is paramount to their success in order to improve capacity at applying the Common Core state standards in content areas. As it relates to us, this is an this is important in increasing literacy-related standards in a science classroom. And wondering if does it help improve student learning and student capacity. ASCD is very conscientious about your time and is working to make these short, sweet, and unobtrusive while still making them informative enough to provide us with effective feedback so we can remain responsive to your needs, interests, and wants. Within a certain context, of course. Any holiday miracles are still on you for you to provide. All right, so now we're going to move into an interactive portion of the webinar where I'll be looking to get your responses as much as possible. So I want to start with something that kind of unites many of us. What is something that you love about science? So if you can type those into the question area, and it could be anything you love about science. And let's see. I'm going to type mine as well. Experiments. The thing I love about science is experiments designed by students. Hands-on learning, the interest of it, discovery, inquiry, experiments and projects, how it applies to our life. Yes, these are great. I think we probably share in that fascination, how it all connects with one another, no matter your subject. Earth, life, biology, chem, all fit together. That's right, Christy. I couldn't agree with you more. Now the next one is, what about something frustrating about science instruction? What's something that frustrates you about science instruction? For me, trying to strike it's trying to strike that balance between process and knowledge base. Problem, not viewed as important. Yeah. So much great information, but so little time to actually apply it or get in the lab and really use it. I feel you, Christy. Measurements like metric system or the lack of metric system. More money for access to cool tools. I agree, Janet. So many exciting, relevant topics. Sometimes too much gets included in instruction. That's true, Sherry. That it ends up being an inch deep and a mile wide. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you all for sharing those. So we have our next poll here, and this one has to do with the next generation science standards. And so I think we're going to have a poll that pops up about these. If not, the goal is to think about how is your state or district or school implementing the next generation science standards. It doesn't seem that the poll is coming up, so if you guys can answer in the question area. Oh, and Jill, you said, oh, now the poll's coming up. All right, so still in the early stages for a lot of states, and then one quarter of you no, and the other quarter of you yes. So that's another good place for us to be, and that we'll be able to compare implementation of those standards. Myself, I'm going to put it out there, I'm a fan of the next generation science standards. I love how they they break things apart, not so much by grade, but by age range, and that they really work to balance that what a lot of you were talking about, and the things that were frustrating to you is that balance of process and knowledge base, and really trying to find that balance between those things that are so key for effective science, living as scientists. So, moving into the eliciting problems of practice. Unfortunately, this is an apt metaphor right now in how Common Core is getting implemented in many places. It is you often hear it from administrators or district folks or just all over the place, and building the airplane while flying it. A good friend of mine, Dr. Spike Cook, who is a principal in New Jersey, recently wrote a blog post about this, about how hard it is to do this and how dangerous it is in education, especially when it comes to the student experience, to try and build the airplane while flying it. And so what we want to try and do is figure out what those major kinks are, those speed bumps in the road that we can do something about as a group together. So this is one of my favorite Yogi Berra quotes. So the goal is for these webinars to reflect the needs and interests of participants. What are the key areas of focus for you and your team? What obstacles are you finding? What roadblocks need additional attention, resources, and strategies? And how can these webinars and learning network, how can these webinars and this learning network be responsive to your work on the ground floor? In theory, implement, and bam, you're there. In practice, it's much more complex system of dynamics. You've got personalities, you've got patterns, you've got norms, you've got trends, staff. Immediate implementation is not easy. So with that understanding, I'm going to ask a series of questions, 1 or 2 poll questions, and I would love for you all to share in your message area what your response is. So the first question is, in your opinion, what are the barriers to integrating the Common Core literacy standards in the non-ELA English Language Arts classroom? So implementing Common Core standards in science. And you don't need to, we have very little, no need to write a novel here, just a couple of words. So, and these might be practical, resources, time, etc., or social, resistance to change, lack of training, misunderstanding of the standards, or something more systemic such as pacing of implementation versus the time, given the time to make mistakes and learn from them. So I'll give you a minute or 2 to type in the message. Understanding the standards, knowledge of integration strategies. Thanks, Sherry. Christine, students not wanting to read in music or art. Yeah, well, and perhaps teachers not wanting to teach there, or to teach reading in music and art, which would be understandable. Time, more difficult to do the fun experiments, which is what science is all about. Yep, I agree, Meredith. Time. Devora, thank you. I'm moving into the next one. How would you describe the current mood of your colleagues in regards to integrating English Language Arts Common Core standards in general and or the sciences? I know for many educators the Common Core is seen as just one more thing, or just an excuse to make money and or test the snot out of kids, while others see them as an improvement, more concise, more focused on student learning, and less about memorizing specific discrete facts. What are your colleagues saying? I don't think time, but mostly understanding of what they are and what they really look like. Teachers think it will go away and don't do anything. Ah, Christy, nice insight. I don't see our school as having barriers per se. We are just improving, going into each other's classrooms to see their practice. Oh, nice, Janet. So you guys are very much an observation culture of a classroom. Mixed feelings, Meredith. Willing but put out. Yep, I think that's pretty common, Jill. Christy, 50-50, some already practice it but don't call it Common Core and are totally ready. Yep, yep. The other half are waiting for retirement. That's hard. Janet, very positive. We always included ELA in all classes. Nice. You're going to have a lot to offer, I think, Janet. It depends on the age of the teacher. Older teachers are fed up, but newer teachers are more accepting of them. That makes sense, Christine. We work together, Devorah. Good. Thanks. Sorry I have to leave. Oh, well, Janet, good luck. Thank you for attending. I look forward to seeing you on ASCD Edge. Look for the Virtual Learning Network Science group. We help each other a lot. That's great, Devorah. I'm glad to hear there's a positivity in a lot of y'all's comments, which is really exciting to see. So, I mean, this question we're not even going to spend time on. I was going to say, what are the major social barriers to implementation, thinking about emotionally, professionally, or things at the water cooler to challenges of implementation, but it sounds like there's some open receptiveness among your teams. So we'll skip this one. And that were some of the examples. Oops. So our next poll that they'll bring up is about the knowledge base for teaching ELA skills in the sciences. Wow. Excellent. Yes, because it's elementary level. Yeah, Meredith, it could be very different middle and high school. Yep, it is a lot easier at that age. And Devorah, I don't know a lot about it. All right. And a lot of you feel that there's already some of those, that knowledge base is already there among your teachers. That's great. And then some feel it's an area of needed development. Super. So the next one's for typing in again, so keeping y'all busy. What do you feel is an essential skill and or knowledge base science educators need in order to integrate English language arts in the Common Core Science Standards? So teaching reading and writing are different than teaching concepts in scientific method, assessing them as well. Where do you feel science educators will need skill development to support as they learn and grow? And again, doesn't need to be a novel, just short and sweet. Perhaps in constructing lesson plans or stumping you. Knowledge of what Common Core is. Knowledge about interesting text to integrate the reading aspect, Meredith, so as not to bore the kids and turn them away from science. Great point, Meredith. I couldn't agree more. And that's going to be a real trick, is how do we share some of those resources so it's not just about them open up your textbook to page la 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 and answer the questions at the end, but to really have interesting texts that are worth delving into because they apply to the experiments and processes that the students have been working on and observing. Teach vocabulary and writing every day with new concepts and reports. It shouldn't be looked at as different, more cross-curricula kind of. Yeah, good point, Christy. Practical hands-on activities. Nice, Devorah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because that's a real key piece, is how do you incorporate the reading and writing skills in a way that's practical and hands-on, so it builds on what the young scientists are doing. And then helpful for science educators to recognize the teachable moment when it makes sense to teach the ELA skill within. So that responsive teaching you're talking about, Sherry, helping them understand when the ELA skills within the science content lesson can really be applied. Yeah, thanks, Devorah. Excellent. Very thoughtful responses, everyone. I'm learning a lot already. All right, we're moving into the next poll, connection between the Common Core state standards and the next generation state standards. Okay, excellent. For those of you who are not familiar with the next generation science standards yet, they are very much designed to complement and to be supplemented by the Common Core state standards. So the developers of NGSS, and if you have a chance to look at and read the framework behind them, it's actually a pretty fascinating read. You'll see that they have designed these so that there can be some of that engaged science that's really important for the young scientists, but then also that incorporates some of these ELA. So we can get more into that in the future. The next poll, areas in need of increased support for educators. So where do you feel that educators need increased support? And one of the other ones I had in there earlier is about helping teachers in collaborative environments, working together with others and to have those responsiveness. Need more activities for hands-on activities and worksheets. Yeah, yeah, for science. That's great, Devorah. Thank you. And curriculum development. That's going to be key, and that's one of the things that EduCore will help us with. In terms of having those lessons and adapting lessons in units and instructional delivery, we can talk about pacing of lessons and how to pace units even so that we're able to take advantage of the time we have to do the things we need to. So the next one's another typer, and I'm almost finished. There's 3 more questions, so we are nearing the end. Do teachers from different subject areas currently have sufficient opportunities to collaborate and learn from one another in your work environment, in your opinion? Because as we start to implement these other skills, it seems that it would be important for teachers to collaborate and integrate. Do you have time for that? Oh, excellent. Devorah, it sounds like you're at a cool place. Anyone else out there want to chime in on this one? Yeah, it is. It's a challenge here too, Sherry. Yep, elementary, Meredith. There are, because you're doing so many different things. Yep. So you're a closed classroom. That's what I always was. And I think you're right. It is more of a challenge for middle and high school. Some of this is already answered in some of your answers, but here's the next question. Do you feel students are prepared to handle an increase in the amount of literacy-related skills in the sciences? Oh, there's more answers here from before. I'm sorry. Yeah, Chrissy, going back to what the teacher is willing to do personally and go out there and get that time. I have about 45% of staff who at any time would do it. I understand. No, unless they get together for meetings. Christine, thank you. Very cool, Devorah. You work in a place where they all help one another. No, students are not prepared to handle an increased amount of literacy-related. Devorah. It's not that they can't handle it, it's that they will be bored of it. Ah, Meredith. Okay. So I wonder if there's ways around that of making those sort of skills be something that can build on and increase their interest in science, or are we doomed to that fate? Sherry, yes, they love it because it makes sense to the students because the ELA learning is embedded in interesting science content. Sherry, I hope you're going to be sharing some great resources with us because that is so important. Chrissy, yes, I think that help with connections of academics altogether. Yeah, that would be really nice is for the students to be able to see, Chrissy, how what they're doing in science as it relates to literacy and reading deep text and stuff can help them in other areas. Even if it means they're better at debating and arguing at home for what they want. Thank you all. Oh, and Christy, one more thought. I think it helps answer the questions, why are we doing this? See how it all relates. That's a great point, and something that we should definitely wrestle with more is how can we use this as an opportunity to create a more cohesive program that makes sense both to students and educators and parents. And ultimately helps build the capacity at the student level for their own lives. All right, last main question. Do you feel teachers are prepared and supported to manage the needs of the neurodiverse learners within the context of reading and writing? And my thought here on this is because the ELA Common Core standards look to increase reading and writing and speaking in the content areas, do you feel teachers have sufficient training in meeting the needs of neurodiverse students who may struggle with those skills? Meaning students who may struggle with receptive and expressive language skills. Do teachers have that capacity in their content areas? Yes, if knowledge is given and parental involvement is important. Yeah, thanks, Christy. We do try. No. It's hard because as was noted earlier, and I'm sorry I forgot which one of you wrote it down, but like in music and art, the focus is on music and art, not so much increasing reading and writing skills. And in my opinion, we need to preserve that. I think there's a limit to where we can put these things. But scientists, real-life scientists, spend 70 to 80% of their times engaged in ELA sort of activities. And so I feel like we're going to need to have these more in sciences, but to do so in a way that makes sense, and to do so that it meets the needs of all learners. So that we have learners who go to science right now because there are experiments and there are processes and they feel successful there. We don't want them to all of a sudden feel unsuccessful every time they go to science because of how deeply embedded the reading and writing are now, and have those take precedent over the areas where they might have strength. We still want to be strength-based and strength-focused so that students have something to look forward to. So final part of eliciting problems of practice. Any additional thoughts about problems of practice? Any problems that weren't covered? Again, these might be practical, resources, time, etc., or social in terms of how people respond to change or lack of training, misunderstanding of standards, implementation versus giving teachers time to make mistakes. Yeah, I'm seeing these come up now. I have to say I personally don't know how to. I could help right off the top of my head with a reading difficulty or speaking. It's a huge challenge, Christy. Teachers have the training. The constant discussion is what methods and materials to employ the best integrate both ESL standards and science objectives in daily instruction. Takes support and training for teachers. And Sherry, when do we have the time for all that development and for teachers to make the sort of mistakes that can help teachers learn as well? Because if we find ourselves in high-stakes environments. So that's such a great point about them not wanting to come to science because of reading. Yeah, Chrissy, so what do we do about that? I mean, maybe that's one of our problems of practice, is how do we keep science interesting and fun for those students for whom reading and writing is a challenge? Okay, thanks Meredith so much for coming. Hope to find you in ASCD Edge, and we're going to move on. So I already asked about you're familiar with ASCD Edge, so we're going to move on to the point. Devora, I teach special education science. They have a hard time understanding all the words. Is there a site that has simple science activities and sheets? Great question. Perhaps that's one of our ways of exploring some of the resources, is how do we scaffold learning for those neurodiverse students, which we all have in every classroom, and so the more we can teach to the extremes, the more we're going to provide access and opportunities for everyone. All right, so ASCD Edge, for those of you who are not familiar, is a social networking site created by ASCD. And when you log in, this is my colleague Mark Barnes's. He offered some of his photos, screenshots for this process. You'll go to groups to find these social learning networks. So at the groups, once you click on that, you'll go to all groups, and they're arranged by alphabet, so A through H, I through P. You want to click on Q through Z, because over here you're looking for the virtual learning networks. And these are all private, which you'll be able to join, but you'll click on Science to join this group. And when you do, you'll want to click the Request to Join. And as long as you've sent me a check for $30,000, I will approve you. Just kidding. Click Request to Join, and I will approve you. You guys have been awesome. You guys have given so much quality feedback that's going to be very valuable. Oh, I just see, Christy, you typed in again. I think the problem I see is your quote, "We build the plane while flying." Trial and error is what I see right now. I'm just collaborating with creative teachers in special ed. Yeah, that's a great point, Christy, is that's yeah, that is what we do as learners, isn't it? And that's what we do for students, and that's how innovation happens, is we build the plane while flying it. And if, trial and error, the problem is that this is happening to students, right? Some of these things are being implemented at a pace that hurts students. And I guess that's what I was thinking of, but I take your point that it is an apt analogy for learning in general. Then once you're approved in My Groups, you click on My Groups over here under Categories, or up here, and you'll see VLN, and it'll say Science rather than Social Studies. Again, this is my colleague Mark's screenshot that he was kind enough to loan. So other than the webinars, the ASCD Edge VLN group is where the sharing of resources will take place. There's a number of different things that we'll be able to share there. Comments, a link to YouTube, photos, videos. We'll be able to have discussions. See here, like Mark has made a comment. We could reply to it. We could say, no, Mark, you're off your beat with this one, dislike, or we could like it, or whatnot. We'll be able to post upcoming events that you'll be able to share. Additionally, over here, we'll be able to upload documents. So if you have resources or activities that are appropriate and apropos to what we've been talking about, Devora, some of your special ed stuff, and we'll be able to post these here. We'll be able to see videos. I've already got one video up of one of my favorite examples of incorporating ELA standards into science, and it's the hip-hop Rap Genius, which is a cool program. If you haven't learned about it yet, I very much encourage you to learn about the Rap Genius. There's a great video on the ASCD Edge that I would love for y'all to check out, and it works for those students. So again, go to ascdedge.ascdedge.org and join, and then join the Virtual Learning Network Science. You can learn more about how to use Edge right here. And then, oops, random slide. So moving into the EduCore. The EduCore is supported by a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It was launched in summer of 2012 and has over 120,000 people who visited already, mostly from the East Coast and California, and clusters from the Midwest, the top 3 states being California, New York, and North Carolina. So go y'all. And then EduCore is essentially a site that will allow us to have tools, strategies, videos, and supporting documents that help to support the Common Core. This is a shot of the main page, and you'll see up here there's an assessment tab, a STEM tab, a math tab, literacy tab, Common Core, about EduCore, and there's already a number of resources on there available to you. This is a kind of a small infographic that shares how essentially to use EduCore, and so we'll go into those a little bit more. There's the option of something to watch, and these can be viewed independently or discussed as a PLC. There's a variety of videos to help you understand the instructional shifts of the Common Core and how to use EduCore resources. These videos can be viewed independently and discussed in a PLC or watched together as a faculty. Or on a Friday night, if you want to get together with friends over a bottle of wine and watch some EduCore videos, I would not dissuade you from doing that. Additionally, this icon is for reading. So this is for finding up-to-date articles and papers about the Common Core, instructional shifts, teaching methods. There's a plethora of articles and papers centered around the Common Core standards. These are a great way to get background information, as well as to expand your understanding of the standards. There's also opinion articles on both sides of the fence, some who are in support, and while others often a more cautious approach to the standards. So whatever suits your fancy, you'll be able to find it there. Additionally, if you're wanting to know how they'll affect you, what do they mean for your students, this tab is of a person designates the webinars that are on EduCore. So EduCore features recorded webinars from ASCD faculty on the standards on a great range of facets of the Common Core. You can watch one to expand your professional knowledge on the CCSS. You can also learn how to develop your instruction around what your students know by using formative assessment math lessons and how to meet literacy standards in your core subject areas. So there's a lot of opportunity at this icon for the more specific learning. And then create. This will help you create modules that you might use for both literacy and math resources. So after reviewing examples and learning how to implement these techniques, you can try your hand at creating your own lessons. There's example modules in literacy and mathematics, and there's sample ones. So this is a good place to do some more creating. Explore. So there's discover all the resources at EduCore, and these don't just highlight EduCore resources. They expand beyond EduCore. There's something for a number of different from a number of different partners and groups and organizations that we work with. So it's not all about just staying within EduCore, but it's a chance to create it as a hub where you can go to get all your Common Core professional development needs taken care of. So in using EduCore, using it with faculty meetings, within your professional learning communities, or independently, or even to connect and share. There's a ton of opportunities for, even taking snippets of videos you might want to share as a part of an opening for a discussion within a PLC, or even as a whole faculty meeting and trying to discuss and brainstorm ideas about what the Common Core means in our different areas. So that brings us to the close. Are there any final questions, comments, concerns, quips, quotes, qualms, or conundrums that anyone would like to share? Unfortunately, you'll have to type those up if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, quips, or quotes, or qualms, or conundrums. All right, well, if you have anything that you come to later, thank you, Christy. I'm glad that this was your first webinar, and I hope to have a chance to engage with you future at other ones. Thank you all for coming. If you're on Twitter, please connect with me on Twitter at Jason Flom. At ASCD Edge, I really hope to connect with you all there. Again, Jason Flom is my name, and then at our VLN Science Group. And if you want to shoot me an email, you can do so at jason.flom.faculty@ascd.org. And I very much look forward to the chance to collaborate and learn from y'all and with y'all as we move forward in this endeavor together. So unless there are any final, do we get a certificate of professional development? Christine, that is a great question, and I would imagine the answer is yes, but I will have to ask my compatriots. Let me hold on, Christy. Okay, so apparently not for this first one. You won't be able to get a certificate, but for future ones, my understanding is that yes, you'll be able to. Because we were not sharing direct knowledge, you need a certificate too. I will be giving more webinars. I'll be giving a series of 4, and we'll have the dates posted on the ASCD Edge group, the VLN, and we'll be posting those. There'll be one in January, another one in February, and then I believe my other dates are March and May. And I would love to have you all come and join those and also connect and share resources on ASCD Edge. My apologies for not being able to get a certificate for this one, but in the future ones you will definitely get a certificate as far as I know. So thank you, and I very much look forward to connecting with you guys in the future. Cheers. You need hours. Devorah, if you register on Edge, then you will know precisely when the dates are. Oh, the dates are also on. They are on our website. If you were to Google Virtual Learning Network ASCD, you would go to a page, and there it has the dates for all the Virtual Learning Network webinars, and it has the dates for my 4 other ones. And that address is ascd.org/VLN. Again, it is ascd.org/VLN. So hope to see you all again real soon, and take care.